Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is Caroline Griffin. I am Director of Operations for the Riot organization, and I'm so excited that you have joined us today for Riot's Lunch and Learn series. Today, we are featuring Bernard Vachon. He is Vice President of Embedded Engineering at Cardinal Peak, and he will be talking to us about the evolution and future of the Internet of Things. Before we get started, just a couple of quick reminders. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please do put those in the chat box. Bernard will be answering questions throughout the presentation, so there'll be plenty of time for you to get your questions in. Please do keep yourself on mute throughout the presentation. That just minimizes distractions for our audience as a whole. And this presentation is being recorded. It will be posted to Riot's YouTube channel and then shared out to the meetup group where you signed up for this event. But without further ado, I know you are all here to see Bernard. Super thankful to have him with us today, and I will let him take it away. Thanks, Bernard.
All right, thanks for the introduction, Caroline. It's very nice to be here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today to talk about IoT and we have a presentation how we've seen things evolve and some of the things we see happening in the future, and have it, encouraged to have a discussion on some of these topics, and I'll try to make it a little bit interactive. So I'll get going here. Just as we start, just a word on Cardinal Peak. We were an engineering product services organization. We help other customers build their products. We've been around for 19 years. We have over 120 employees. 100 of those are engineers. So we're very engineering focused. We've have lots of client worked on over 200 commercialized products, and probably worked on 800 plus different projects over the years. So that was just a quick introduction to Cardinal Peak. So at Cardinal Peak, we do a lot of work on IoT products. We do embedded, we do hardware development, embedded software, mobile and cloud, and we have a lot of customers that come to us for help building their products. And over the years, I think we've all seen some interesting products that people decide, hey, we're going to connect these things, and I've picked a few here. I've seen there's a smart hairbrush somewhere out there that you can purchase. There's a company that decided to make smart flip-flops, and smart toasters, and of course you can really add connectivity to a lot of different products. And it's always, okay, what will people think of next? And that's why it kind of makes IoT a very interesting field, because all kinds of applications are opening up. When IoT first started, I think the first wave of product was really just adding basic connectivity to existing products. So it was, let's take a thermostat and let's just connect it to the internet. And this was providing us, remote control capabilities, which were quite nice, to be honest. If you go on a trip somewhere for a long weekend, and in the winter, you're like, hey, I can turn down the heat, or in the summer, turn off the AC, and then as you come back, or if you come back earlier, and if you don't have a programmable, if you didn't have a programmable thermostat, you come home and you get home to a cold house. Hey, having ability to just get on your phone, open up an app, and turn up the heat, so that when you get home, your house is nice and warm. Nice convenience and all this, and we saw a lot of these products just say, hey, let's just add a Wi-Fi module to this, and let's connect it, and and we have a new product. And we've worked on a few of these. The example here, thermostat, sprinkler systems, fans. Cardinal Peak has worked on, with Peron, who makes thermostat. So we help them, Wi-Fi enable their thermostat and release that. Same thing with sprinkler system. And depending on these products, you know, some people might have a lot of use for them, and some other people look at it and say, "Oh, I don't really need my sprinkler system to be connected." In my case, I've actually enjoyed it that, hey, if I need to kind of quickly test if I'm repairing my sprinkler system, I'm on the front yard and I just, you know, repaired something, and then, you know, the control panel is in the back. Hey, I can just whip out my phone, you know, test the zone, make sure that, you know, the sprinkler I just repaired is working, pointing in the right direction. I don't need to run back, turn on the sprinkler, come back, you know, to the front. So it's had some convenience that I've certainly enjoyed, but you know, different people have different needs. But that connectivity brought, you know, a lot of good products. Then I think there's a second wave where companies started looking at these products and realizing that there was more to gain than just that connectivity. And that by connecting some of the product, you can enhance some continued revenue stream from complementary products. For example, we helped the company develop the fragrance dispenser. It's web connected. All right, so you can set a schedule. It's got some nice convenience, but also the nice, you know, there's the nice feature that when your cartridge is starting to run low, your app tells you, and your app makes it very convenient to order that next cartridge of fragrance. And you probably just, you know, you just click one button, and next thing you know, you're receiving that. So that really makes it easier for these companies to kind of sell these complementary products and really, you know, increase their sales. Again, I think that was the idea behind that hairbrush. This is a fragrance dispenser I've talked about. You know, we've done work with water filters. You know, I have a refrigerator. It's got a water filter. It's not connected, and every once in a while, that little light goes red or starts blinking. And you know, more than once, I've just kind of pressed a reset button to make the LED stop flashing, and you know, I'm done with this because hey, I don't know what part to order, and you know, do I really want to take the time to go and figure it out? And I don't. But if there was a button that says, hey, click here, and you know, Amazon will deliver it in 2 days, I'd be a lot more likely to get a replacement filter sooner. So I don't know if I see there's some things on the chat, so I don't know if there's any questions at this point.
Yeah, Bernard, there's a couple here.
Yep.
We can start. What besides Node-RED should I consider for development?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Absolutely. What besides Node-RED should I consider for development?
I'm not sure what Node-RED.
If you could elaborate on that, Todd, and we'll come back to that question. Different question here. Is MQTT the best way to get started on IoT? This individual is a newbie. They have servers, Raspberry Pis, and ESP32s.
Yeah, so MQTT is typically the protocol kind of that's creating that communication between all of this. So having a good understanding of that, how you sync up your app, your device, and the cloud. MQTT is at the bottom of this. Now, in a lot of cases, you can use tools that really abstract all of this. If you go and work with Amazon, AWS IoT, and some of these things, a lot of these things can be abstracted for you. So you don't necessarily need to be an expert in MQTT to understand all of this, but it is definitely a good place to get the fundamentals there.
Thanks, Bernard. Another question here. What role in the future will body-worn devices have in safety for first responders?
I've got some example of that a little bit later in the presentation, but yes, this is definitely kind of some of the applications we're seeing emerging is, you can have fairly cheap connected devices that are fairly low power and have a long battery life, and certainly in terms of collision avoidance systems, there's some companies doing some work there. I know certainly on highway, you're seeing a lot of, of equipment and protective gates and all this to help workers. So this is definitely an area I think that we're going to see a fair amount of innovation.
Thanks, Bernard. We'll take one more question here from Michael Steele, Tiroli Law Firm. Much of the public's concern revolves around artificial intelligence getting too powerful, for example, Skynet. However, the real concern to better inform people is avoiding artificial stupidity due to programming errors, like a set of conditions that cause a Springer system to stay on forever, even though flooding. What steps does Cardinal Peak take to avoid problems arising from artificial stupidity?
We work with our customers to really understand kind of their requirements, kind of the use cases of their products. It's really looking at user experience end to end. I think a lot of people say, oh yeah, I can just connect this, and all right, so now you've connected your product. How is the user supposed to use it? It's really kind of going beyond just, oh, I'm going to add smarts to the product. It's all right, now that I've added connectivity or voice enablement or machine learning to that product, how is that product now going to be used differently? And how can I help? So it's thinking through use cases and really looking at how can I not just avoid even prevent stupidity. There are things, smart locks, for example. There's a lot of people that are looking at how can I use smart locks in a better way. Door locks, you could see again, is one of the products that first wave, hey, I just added connectivity to my lock so I can remotely open my door or lock it. Hey, that's useful, especially if you have kids that are walking home from school that might have forgotten their keys, and they can say, hey, I'm locked out. Or you have a family coming in town to visit, and they show up 2 hours early, and you're still at work. You can say, hey, let's open this. But then some people say, well, hey, I'm not comfortable having a smart lock because now somebody could unlock my home, remotely, and they're weighing kind of the pros and cons. But then you start seeing people that are looking at the smart lock and say, well, how can I make it safer and more convenient so that if I'm carrying my cell phone, my door will detect that it's me and it will open for me. And as I've gone through the door, I might decide to just kind of lock it right away. So that, again, I don't have to go and lock my door, or hey, at night it will lock it automatically for me. So I think there's a lot of, you got to think through use cases. How are people going to use this? And you need a wide audience, when you're looking at some of these scenarios, because we all have, different experiences and want to use a product differently. And I think it's question of really studying your market and, getting a lot of input from prospective customers.
Thanks so much, Bernard. We'll move on, and then we can do another round of questions. Thanks.
So so the second wave was, all right, how do I enable these other markets? This again is Protech, is a company that we worked with that we helped them build this fragrance dispenser that's connected. So that's an example here. And then the new wave, and kind of what we're seeing is new products that were really in the past not feasible without this connectivity, the connectivity that we now have. So example of that, I know there are people have different opinions on some of these scooters that you can rent that are sometimes littered through city. But you can, now, have a fleet of scooters that are kind of deployed. You have an app and you say, hey, I want to find one of these scooters to get around town. And you just look at the app and it tells you where to pick it up. And you don't have to worry about, oh, I need to return this at a specific location. Wherever you're done at the end of the day, you just kind of leave it there and the next person will pick it up from there. I think that's a good example of things that weren't really possible without that connectivity in the past. We're seeing IoT applications in mining. Collision avoidance is a big thing in mines. It's a dark environment. There's vehicles, there's people. You want to avoid collisions between vehicles, between people and vehicles. So I think that's kind of an example of what something that somebody was asking earlier. We worked with a company called Vision here in Colorado, and they have a solution for doing environmental environmental sensor for data centers. So a big part of expenses of running data centers is actually cooling your data center. Well, their solution allows you to monitor airflows and temperature throughout your data center, and they really provide all the tools to optimize that so that you can really reduce your operational cost. Again, this is done through sensors that give you precise location readings and that can be easily deployed. They have a robust network of easily deployed sensors that provide that data, which makes this optimization possible. So that's kind of what we've seen is basic connectivity to, hey, how do I enhance the sell of other products to now new applications, and to me the new applications are kind of the really interesting ones, and we talked to a lot of different people that have different ideas, and some are great, some are like, hey, I don't really see it, but at the end of the day, I realize I'm not always the target market for every application. So we help our customers build these products, and we have a lot of experience kind of getting them to markets, and we really like developing these and seeing them out there in the field. All right. So I was going to talk about kind of a couple of different sectors that we've seen. So home automation, I think, is one a lot of people are very familiar with. We can all go to pick your favorite hardware store and go in there and find a smart light bulb or a smart light switch or a smart lock. So we're seeing a lot of products in home automation that are really bringing convenience. I think everything that's on this list is something that we have done here at some point at Cardinal Peak, and we've done even more. Look, some will be very successful, others will might not be as successful, and to me personally, I feel hey, a smart light bulb, well, I'd rather have a smart light switch than a smart light bulb. First, I think my light bulb is more likely to break or burn off, so I'd rather not invest more money on the light bulb, and I'd rather and I'd probably have multiple light bulbs per switch. So to me, hey, I still also want the ability to turn on and off the lights manually, in case I don't have my phone or Alexa's disconnected or something. Whereas the smart light switch, the smart light bulb, I need the phone to control it, or you could say, hey, I can still use the switch to turn it off, but at that point, my smart light bulb is no longer smart because I need to go and turn on the switch again. So there are products like this that we're going to see evolve, and in the case of a smart light bulb, it might still work. I could see somebody building a new house that rather than having a traditional switch, you're going to have a little control panel, and that panel is going to talk to the light bulbs directly, and your lights are essentially going to just be hardwired always on, and you're going to turn them off through that smart panel or the app. That could be a way these things evolve, and that's something we'll see over time. What people are willing to pay for some of these convenience, so yeah. Any question on home automation?
there's one, not the home automation, there was one that was, do you recommend all your IoT devices on a separate VLAN in your home?
That's something I'm not sure that we've spent too much time looking at that. The networking, I think in general, personally, what I've done is it's just all on my Wi-Fi. I've not been concerned about trying to separate that. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't really offer guidance there.
Thanks, Bernard. There's
So somebody saying, VLAN, yes, I can see that. Yep.
Yes, and then someone asked, do you think IoT devices geared toward measuring air quality and safety will become more prevalent because of COVID?
I could definitely see that. I think we're seeing, new products and as we've been living through this pandemic, people are, it's stirring up new ideas, and people are starting to becoming more conscious about this. Is it something that's gonna stay here, be here to stay, or is going to be temporary? I don't know, but I would suspect that for the coming years, people are going to be a little bit more, conscious about air quality, and if there's data can start showing that, hey, it doesn't just allow you to prevent COVID, but the flu and other illnesses. I think it's a market. Certainly IoT, I think in general can make us healthier. I've got another slide here, and one or two, I think is my next slide, where it's definitely the health market is one where we're seeing a lot of IoT products as well.
Thanks, Bernard. Just one more question here. Does Cardinal Peak include machine to machine in your IoT strategy? For example, are you working with connected manufacturing line products where machines communicate with other machines?
I don't believe we have helped anybody with that just yet. We are talking with some prospective customers about, that are working in, with robots in such a way, and certainly something we're very excited about, and would love the opportunity to help other people build. All right, so I'll move on here. Wellness is kind of the next segment where we're seeing a lot. Can IoT help make us healthier? And I think the answer is yes. All kinds of connected wearable devices help. 2 years ago at CES, I was there, and there was a lot of baby wellness products, and Owlet's a company that we're very familiar with, and they make a baby sock to monitor vitals. Look, my kids are no longer babies, but when they were babies, if you told me, hey, you can put the sock here, and I don't know the price point on that sock, but to bring you peace of mind, I probably would have signed up at that point in time. There's scales, Wi-Fi and BLE scales for monitoring your infant weight, as they just come out of hospital very often. You want to make sure that they eat enough and that they're progressing well. So there's a market of scales that will help you do that. All kinds of smart cribs, again, that monitor vitals and things like that for to help prevent SIDS and other issues. Video monitoring is a big one. I think baby monitors have been around for a very long time, audio ones, and we certainly used those for many years, and now video has been added to that, and you can stream that to your phone, and I think that's a very popular one. We're seeing a lot of sleep monitoring devices. In my case, I've got a smart watch that tracks my sleeps and, will tell me whether I slept well or not. In general, I can feel it if I didn't sleep well, but it will actually give me interesting data about, hey, your heart rate was a little bit higher and, things like that. And I think that can help people figure out, oh, hey, what did I do that could have caused that? Or, and then there's application like smart pill bottles that could have, a lot of people have been working on that for many years, but, some people have estimated that, it could save hundreds of billions of dollars, by getting people to take their prescribed medicine when they should. So there's a lot of application where we're also seeing a lot of companies coming up with new products, new ideas, and again, it's very exciting. Any question on any of these?
We do have a couple of questions here. Do you see voice playing a major role in many consumer devices? For example, voice control / voice recognition.
Yes, definitely. And that's kind of in my later slides, but that's definitely kind of the evolution we're seeing. Look, the first step was adding basic connectivity. Okay, now that's done. Look, I can buy a smart, just going back to home automation. Well, home automation makes a lot more sense to me when I could just say, hey, Alexa, turn on the light, or, do the things like that, or Alexa, lock the front door. Definitely there's a big components. I think also, if you're selling a light switch, for example, if you say, hey, I could add a microphone to my smart light switch and have my light switch be an Alexa device, then, all right, that tells me that, all right, I no longer need to buy an Alexa device or Google device, for that matter, for every room. I've got, because I'm going to have a light switch in my room anyway. If I just had a little microphone to that, okay, the cost of that light switch is going to go up a little bit more, but probably not, by the same extent of adding an extra, Echo Dot or equivalent Google product. So voice, I think, is definitely a big part of this, and we'll talk a little bit more later.
Thanks, Bernard. There was a question from prior. Is Cardinal Peak paying attention to the chip initiative and seeing any customers interested in using it yet?
So sorry, could you repeat that? I missed that.
Of course, yeah. Is Cardinal Peak paying attention to the chip initiative, CHIP, and seeing any customers interested in using it yet?
That's not one I'm familiar with. So sorry, I can't comment. We're seeing a lot of different types of initiative and a lot of platforms and solutions, and we work with a lot of that. We actually do a lot of work with Amazon, AWS. We have a partnership there. So yeah, there's a lot of great solutions out there and initiatives, and we try to keep track of them, but I don't necessarily have knowledge of all of them.
Thanks so much, Bernard. Those are all the ones I'm seeing.
All right. Okay, another continuing here, another application is industrial applications, industrial IoT or IIoT. And that's also a very interesting market. Going back to the home automation, in a lot of cases it remains a novelty. It provides some small convenience. Hey, I've automated a good part of my home, but cost is a concern. I was counting. There's in my house, I think I have about 25 light switches. I Googled, and Google told me the average house is about 70 outlets. So if I want to change every one of these light switches and outlets, smart light switch was $40. Now they're coming down to more of a $20 price point, but at $40 for 25, I'm looking at $1,000. It's like, all right, it's a nice, it's small, it's nice convenience, but do I want to go and drop in $1,000 on replacing all my switches? I have, I've replaced, 4 or 5 kind of the main ones in the house. The rest I haven't done. So there's, costs can be a concern, and there's, therefore the value proposition is not always there. But if you start looking at, companies, without necessarily being industrial, but just look at a company that would be doing, that has a lot of rental houses. There's, or manage a lot of rental houses that are short-term rentals. Well, all of a sudden, for a company like this to say, hey, I'm going to put a smart hot water heater in each one of these houses starts making a lot of sense, because now they can manage, hundreds of houses, and whenever those houses are unoccupied, they can turn down the hot water heater and come up with a pretty significant cost saving for, for that unoccupied house. So with scale, some of these applications make a lot more sense. Again, mining is a good example where, air quality monitoring in a mine, collision avoidance systems. There's a lot of IoT application there that are very meaningful. You can save lives, with some of these products, and that's a huge deal. Oil and gas industry, again, monitoring of remote sites, manufacturing, and robotics are all areas where, we're seeing a lot of these applications as well. All right. So I was going to talk about here a little bit about connectivity options and some of the things, again, some of the evolution we've seen there. Look, initial products came out, and you had Wi-Fi connectivity as, more, we all now have mobile phones in our pocket that are BLE enabled. So you've seen, because of that, a lot of products start having BLE connectivity. There's different options to connect your products. It really is going to depend on the application, but BLE and Wi-Fi are kind of general purpose, connectivity solutions. In the home automation, you see a lot of Zigbee and Z-Wave. Some of these have power advantages. So especially if you're going to have battery-powered devices, having Wi-Fi and battery-powered device is a little bit more challenging because it drains your battery. Like smart locks, I think, is a good example. I like this convenience of the smart lock, but getting powered your smart lock is challenging. So most of these locks are battery-powered. If I need to change the battery of my smart lock every 2 months, I think that kind of offset the convenience I get from the smart lock. But having a Zigbee or Z-Wave or even BLE option then allows you to have a much longer battery life. And if I can get away to 6 months to a year of battery life on my smart lock, it's like, okay, that's something. Personally, I'm like, all right, that trade-off is good. Low power WAN, and what we're seeing is, LoRa, and I think I had one of our engineers, Cardinal Peak, did our lunch and learn here a few weeks back or a month back on LoRa, providing you connectivity, at a much wider range and low power. So again, that enables application like monitoring of remote sites, like drilling site for the oil industry. I think is a good example. And then cellular, if you need kind of a fair amount of bandwidth, but aren't close to in the case of a home where you can have a Wi-Fi or BLE or Zigbee. We're talking about these smart these e-scooters and all these applications are all typically LTE based. Some of these devices, depending on the features of your product, that's going to dictate kind of what you're going to use in terms of connectivity. Is your battery, is it a battery powered device? Does it need to be always connected? where will it be used, and what other products might be deployed with it. Maybe you can leverage somebody else's connectivity, or maybe you will be the hub for somebody else. All things to be considered. Just here, I put a little bit of data on connectivity, range versus power, and some of these trade-off as you're deciding some of these things. So hey, yeah, if you need really the greatest range, cellular is kind of the option, but that comes at a pretty high power usage. If LoRa will work for you, your power is going to be much better. You're not quite getting the same range, but you're still getting a pretty good range here. And then, Wi-Fi is kind of this ubiquitous thing that we can find everywhere. And it has a convenience. You don't need any hubs or things like that. And then if you want low power, BLE, Zigbee, Z-Wave are kind of the options here. The downside of these is that then to get to the internet, you need some type of hub to connect to the internet. And then here just talking about throughput, range versus throughput, just kind of another way of looking at it. Let's see. So another thing also, when you're building products, I know there were some questions about, hey, what are some things to use? Again, we've seen an evolution of platforms. I think in the early days, it was just kind of platform was just providing basic connectivity. That was the first ask, and somebody says, hey, whether you're connecting a fragrance dispenser or a camera or water filter, you really need just kind of a basic service that brings you connectivity. So there's a number of companies that provided platforms, and we've worked with a number of them. And Ayla Networks is one of them. Zigbee is our company we work with. Tuya is a company that I think lately has been providing a lot of a platform that has become very popular. And look, these companies have continued to evolve their offering. It was initially basic connectivity, but over time they've added a lot of analytics. Hey, it gives you they give you a lot of data on how your product is being used, who's using it, how they're using it, and that really again enables you to optimize your offering of other products, complementary products, and things like that. So that's where these companies have gone. Other kind of the major players, Azure IoT is the Microsoft IoT solution. Very robust solution, highly secure. I'd say it's kind of the Cadillac of solutions here, but hey, it's you're going to be a little more locked down, but if you want top security and all this, Azure's the way to go. They've built that from the ground up, starting with the silicon, saying, hey, this is what you're going to use, and and make sure that it's secure end to end. AWS IoT, again, as I mentioned, we've worked a lot with them, with Amazon. If you're looking for more flexibility, and you don't mind developing some of the chunks of the functionality, to me AWS IoT is kind of the place to go. They started with a very basic offering, and I think over the years they're kind of moving upstream and offering more and more features. They've FreeRTOS is now integrated with AWS IoT, so you can drop AWS IoT FreeRTOS on your embedded product, which will help with all the connectivity. So they're doing more and more of the work, and kind of catching up to these platforms that said, hey, we're giving you all these features. But at that point, they're not necessarily giving you the whole network management solution. You still need to monitor your network and all this. Another area we're seeing Amazon go is they've realized that there's a lot of connected product that really just want to be connected so they can work with Alexa. And therefore, they've come up with a solution there that they're giving you a more constrained kind of IoT solution, but it already works with Alexa. So if you're saying, hey, I want to create a smart light bulb and I want to work with Alexa, and I don't care particularly to have my own app to control a really special feature, they have a pretty interesting solution there that allows you to get to market pretty quickly. So again, that comes back to, are we seeing voice getting integrated in IoT? Definitely, and Amazon has kind of realized that as well, and their Alexa Connect kit is definitely a very interesting solution from that perspective. Any questions around this at this point?
We do have two. The first one is, what do you see the biggest bottleneck for further proliferation of IoT devices? For instance, do you have more problems dealing with bandwidth limitations, processing power on the IoT devices, battery life, or is some other problem holding up progress?
I think it really depends on the application. When people are looking at video application, bandwidth starts becoming, a constraint sometimes, because even if it's going to be connected to somebody's home, Wi-Fi, how much upload, bandwidth do they have? So that can, certainly impact, what can be done with devices. Battery power, definitely. More and more, we're seeing people wanting to push the envelope there in terms of, wearable devices. Again, I've got a smartwatch. Hey, I've got to plug in every like 2 or 3 days. Otherwise, battery goes dead. Hey, well, okay, it's providing me interesting data, if I go running or do some other activity, and like I said, it tracks my sleep and all this, so I put up with it. But it's certainly, we've kind of taken a step back versus, since I've been a kid, that I've had a watch that you change the battery, on a watch, how often? Like every couple of years, even if that, usually the watch would break. In my case, the strap would break before I would need to replace the battery. So power is always an issue that we're seeing. But connectivity, and then there's some applications like also where can you put devices, and there's going to be some legal ramifications also. I believe I saw an article about Amazon and some of their technology to track their drivers, and how well their drivers are doing, and if they're distracted or things like that. Well, some of these technologies, you're going to start, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing more legislation around, what is allowable use of technology to track, people's behavior and things like that. So I'm not sure that there's a single one that's it. If I had to pick one, I think power is probably the bigger one, but I think they're all, depending on your application, a factor.
Thanks, Bernard. How power efficient are these IoT platforms for battery operated devices?
So the platforms are pretty efficient. A lot of it comes down to the embedded software that you do on your device. So it's going to depend on what processor have you selected, and it's going to depend on how well you write your software, and very often it comes down to what trick can you do to say, hey, I'm going to keep this device in low power mode or off as long as possible. What kills you most time with power is having to be on all the time. If you can shut down your device or go to a very low power state, that's how you really extend that that life. And very often those are, those are more games that have to do with the usability of the product more than the platform.
Helpful. Thanks, Bernard. One more question here. Any experience or opinion on AWS time stream database versus InfluxDB, QuestDB, or other time series databases?
I don't. I'm the VP on the embedded side, so I work more with the device and less on some of the AWS cloud and tools there. So unfortunately, I can't offer any insight there.
No worries. Thanks so much, Bernard. Those are all the questions I'm seeing for right now.
All right. All right. So yeah. So we've kind of talked about, hey, some of the things we've seen so far, and kind of, yeah, what's the future of IoT? What are some of the next step? And the first part, and that we see is voice enablement, and that's already happening. It's not something that will happen. It is already happening. But again, home automation makes a lot more sense if you have Alexa or Google Home in the picture. If I need to take my phone out to to turn out the light, well, I still need to have my phone on me, which I might, and that's not a problem. But hey, if I'm sitting on the couch or sitting and eating dinner at the dinner table, and I would say, hey, turn on or turn off the lights, that to me is kind of provides a lot more convenience. So definitely voice enablement is we see as a very big market, and we're seeing kind of more and more people wanting to add that. We do a lot of work also with speakers, headsets, and voice enablement is a big thing there. Always on wake word detection. Again, we're talking about battery, battery usage. We all have, I've got a Bluetooth, it's not a headset, but speaker here, a wearable. A lot of these new earbuds have wake word detection. Again, they'll pick up Alexa, Google, Siri, things like that. We're getting more and more used to these, and like it took me a while when I started installing Alexa in my house to kind of train myself to ask Alexa to turn on the light rather than just turning it on. There was definitely in my case a little bit of training, but didn't take too long, and now I've kind of gotten used to it. And there's been time where, hey, it's not working. It's like, oh, I got to get up and go and turn off the light switch. So I think voice is here to stay, and the quality and the of the experience is also getting better. But hey, that also comes back to the to some of the earlier question, how do we make sure that we make things smarter and avoid making things dumber. Look, you really need to start thinking, what is my user experience going to be now that I'm adding voice to a product? A lot of people say, hey, I want my headset to not just process Alexa. I want to have kind of my own features that I support locally. We're seeing a lot of interest in that. But then you say, all right, if you're in a call and you want to be just able to say answer the call rather than having to click on a button to answer a phone call that's coming, hey, that's pretty reasonable. But then there's some people that have that think, hey, I should also be able to hang up my call if I'm in the middle of a call through voice. Well, that presents some challenges, because you're having a conversation, so you're talking, and you know, normally you want all that to go to the person you're talking to. Well, what if in the middle of your call you have to say the word hang up for some reason, and then your device picks it up and goes, oh, okay, you want to hang up? Let me hang up the phone for you. You know, how do you manage some of these challenges? So it's really looking at the user experience of how voice will impact the user experience of your product. So are there any questions around that?
No question. Lots of comments in the chat box, but no questions I'm seeing right now.
So like I said, we've done a lot of interesting work here with you know, wake word detection, and we're part of the voice interoperability initiative with Amazon, and you know, multi wake word detection and always on wake word detection, and been working with a company called Sentient, who has a neural decision processor that's an ultra low power, you know, always on wake word detection. Yeah. So all right. So next step, you know, again in the future of IoT, and I'm seeing here on the chat here, somebody mentioned tiny XML. I think very interesting. Look, the other part we're seeing here is AI ML at the edge. Now we're deploying all these devices at the edge. Why not why not take advantage of the processing power that's already deployed there? And by deploying AI ML, you can improve performance. For example, your Alexa is your Alexa device can process certain commands locally, and by doing so, it's just kind of speeding up the turnaround time. You know, not everything needs to now go to the cloud to get a response. So anything that you can do at the edge, you're going to get performance improvements, you know, just in terms of turnaround. But one of the also big benefits also is you might be able to reduce the bandwidth requirements. So in these applications where you might be bandwidth limited, to get back to that earlier question, is, you know, AI might help you solve that problem. Take a, for example, take the oil industry, where they have a lot of remote sites that they sometimes need to monitor. Okay, you get connectivity, you can deploy a device over there. You might want to put a camera out there to monitor for, hey, are there any, you know, intruders, or hey, is there anything that is happening that I should be monitoring? So you can say, hey, I need to feed this back to you know, to the cloud so I can, you know, monitor this video. Well, that's challenging from the bandwidth perspective. Now you can say, hey, I'm not going to stream until I detect there's an incident. You know, hey, there's been a noise. I'm going to turn on the camera and start streaming. That's how some of these problems have been handled in the past. But now, you know, with AI and, you know, ML at the edge, you can say, hey, I'm going to put these algorithms to process the video locally to see if there's anything that needs to be that warrants our attention, and do all the processing over there. And then all of a sudden, hey, there's an issue. Then you send a message back to the cloud, which can raise the alarm, raise an alert. So all of a sudden, LoRa becomes an option again for this site. You know, LoRa is not going to allow you to carry a you know, high fidelity, you know, 1080p video stream continuously, but you can have that stream locally over there, and then have an algorithm that figures out if there's something that needs to be, you know, brought up, and then lose LoRa, you know, for a low bandwidth message to get the notification.
Bernard, question here. Has Cardinal Peak considered IoT assistance to elderly/infirm to reduce and/or eliminate caregivers?
We have talked with a number of companies that are in the healthcare industry, and we have talked with companies that have products kind of targeted to the elderly to kind of help them. So yes, I think that's definitely something we're seeing. We're also, so some people, especially with COVID, are doing some, remote, monitoring of vital signs. So yeah, those are all things that are happening, and we're helping some companies that are playing in the area in those markets.
Thanks, Bernard.
So we're almost at the time here. As one, this. Oh yeah, no, sorry, I forget. There's one more slide here I want to talk about because this whole connected product is made end-of-lifing products a little bit different. We've added IoT capabilities to a lot of these products that have had traditional, lifespan of 10 plus years. For instance, I don't know how often you change your refrigerator, but I still have the refrigerator that was in the house here when we bought the house, more than 10 years ago, and I don't have any plan to replace that until something, goes bad with it, and I'm hoping that's still another 10 years away. So all of a sudden we've added that connectivity to these things that tend to stick around for a long time. And, I think we're going to see some interesting challenges, because a lot more things can go wrong. In some cases, some of the manufacturing company might go out of business. What does that mean for your connected product? If if you have a smart smoke alarm detector, all right, well, what's the company that makes it is no longer in business? Well, it might still work as a smoke alarm detector. You've just kind of lost the remote part of it. And you might be like, okay, I can probably still live with that. But for instance, I have some cameras that I've had for probably like 6 or 7 years from some company. I don't think the company is around anymore. The camera still, if I'm connecting locally in my house, I can still watch the video stream. But when I'm outside, no longer on my Wi-Fi network, that connectivity no longer works. So hey, that made that camera kind of not very useful anymore. So there's interesting of what's going to happen to the end of life. Or more complicated yet is, let's say that hey, I'm going to buy a smart light bulb from a company like GE. Hey, GE is probably going to be around in 20 years. That's probably a safe bet. Well, what if GE selected a IoT platform that goes out of business? What's happening then? So there's a lot of exposure, a little bit more exposure, and how we're going to manage the end of life of these products, I don't think has been completely resolved. And in some cases, there's even been things like Nest, took the decision a while back. They had acquired a company, Revolve, that was making a smart home device. And they said, we're banning this. And they didn't just say, hey, you're not going to be connected anymore. They actually went and bricked the devices. So now a company could decide that, I no longer want to support your, smart thermostat or your smart, smoke detector. They have the ability to go and disable that product from working anymore. There's not been a lot of instances of things like that, but I think we will see more, and it'll be interesting to see how the industry, handles that and reacts to that. So yeah, just 2 minutes left. Are there any more questions?
Thanks, Bernard. Yeah, just lots of great comments here. If you do have questions, feel free to add them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. We do have a minute left. Great presentation, Bernard. Very informational. Again, this was recorded, and so you'll be able to view it on Riot's YouTube channel and the meetup page where you registered. All right, I think I think you answered all the questions, Bernard.
All right, well, thank you everyone for attending.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being here, Bernard. Thank you to everyone for attending. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.